Okay, so we've covered the syllabus, so you should now have a good feel for the scope of the kind of things that you're going to be examined on if you choose to take this particular certificate. But I wanted to give you some tips for the examination itself, and if you're about to sit the examination, perhaps you want to do some preparation, I wanted to give you some quick tips to help you get the most out of the work that you're going to do. And one of the things I'd encourage you to do is to look at the glossary that's included as part of the syllabus, and the glossary contains various terms that you may well come across in the examination and be asked to define. Now, these are the simplest kind of questions that you get in the certificate examination. You're not going to get many of these, but you're surely going to get a small handful of them, and as a consequence, if you revise the glossary and read up on the various terms, you're guaranteed to get a handful of questions right. And it might well be that those handful of questions is the difference between you getting a pass or a fail grade. So it's really worth looking over the glossary and picking up, making sure you really understand what these terms are. You can do this with You could do flashcards, write the definition on one side and the term on the other side. You could just sit there and read over it. Some of these I'm sure you already know. Some might be new to you, but make sure that you've read the glossary. If you've kind of revised the glossary, then if you only had 5 minutes to revise, what I'd say is look at the glossary. That's the place where you're more likely to be able to gain some extra marks than any other. Now, the other thing I wanted to point out as well is the areas where the questions are most likely to be asked. So this graph shows you the 9 syllabus areas that we've discussed, and you can see here that some areas have more questions than others. So typically in an examination there'll be 8 questions on usability evaluation, 4 on user interface prototyping, 4 on visual design, 4 on interaction design, 6 on information architecture, 2 on measuring usability, 6 on illustrating the context of use, 4 on user research, and 2 on guiding principles. So that should also give you a feel about where you might want to focus. Perhaps if you're weak in one of those areas, it will give you a feel for how much extra work you might need to do. You also need to be aware of the notion that they use in the BCS syllabus of K levels, and K levels refer to the 3 different difficulty levels of questions. So you have so-called K1, K2 and K3 questions. K1 questions are basically the easy questions. These are the ones where you might be asked to recognise a definition. K3 questions, they're the most difficult that you'll be asked, and there you really need to make some kind of judgment in order to come up with the correct answer. K2 questions, they kind of fit halfway in between, and there's a fair mix of K1, K2 and K3 questions that you'll find in the examination paper. There's 40 questions in total in the examination, and you have an hour to take the exam. So that's some tips that I hope that you'll be able to use in order to approach the examination and pass it with flying colours. In the next lecture, I just wanted to talk about some of the practicalities involved, maybe some of the frequently asked questions that I've heard people have about this certificate that might help you as well.